So this is going to be my take on a P7 solo Zammy guide. I just got back from vacation pretty recently, so I've just been trying to push and rage, see how high I can get. I don't have Crypt Bloom, which I think makes this guide a little bit more applicable for people struggling to get a 100% kill or struggling to figure out how to consistently get P7s as they push higher. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the things that happen in Phase 7 and what defensives work on what, and that's probably the cause of a lot of frustration, so I figured I'd kind of walk through what I've discovered with P7 and the most effective way to deal with what happens on it. So, just jumping in, once you phase it on Phase 6, the first thing I kind of want to note is you get locked in this animation, and the second you start to lift off the ground, you're allowed to put in input. So the second you start lifting off the ground, what I like to do is Rocktail Brew, Excalibur. And that just gets you higher health and gets Excalibur rolling. So once you spawn into Phase 7, you're going to have a demon spawn. You're going to have all the runes from inside the, I don't know what the heck this place is called, but inside the rune area that you visit during the fight. And you're going to have Zammy standing on the west side. He's going to throw, just as an overview, he's going to throw 2 magic hits. Then he's going to charge up a big attack. Then eventually he's going to shoot a big attack. And then he's going to shoot, well, no. First he's going to do a melee hit, then he's going to do a big attack, and then he's going to do 4 smaller attacks. We'll go over that once we get a little closer to it. But first things first, you're going to have this demon spawn. And so what I like to do is, if you have a Demon Slayer sigil activated, and then I just Greater Conk and Omni Power. Now, at lower enrage, that should kill him. I'm at the point, this is a 600% kill. I'm at the point where that doesn't usually kill it, so I kind of kite it and try to asphyxiate it, because it actually does smack like crazy. Like, it'll smack you 2Ks. It's pretty nuts. So kiting it, I think, is pretty important, and stunning it's pretty important to minimize damage taken. So while you're dealing with that, you're going to get thrown 2 magic hits by Zammy. Both of those are just regular magic hits. You can debilitate them, you can devotion them, you can res them if you time it right, you can do whatever, but Prey Mage is probably fine. So you want to kill the demon, and then I like to get on this weird forked kind of rune. There may be a better one to do, but I find this kind of gets you pretty equidistant to all the runes. Makes it so that whatever he calls out first is in surge range. And just to go over it in case someone watching this doesn't know, so he's going to call out 2 different runes in solo for you to kill. They each have about 25k health. And you need to kill them in the order that he calls them out. After you kill the first one, it'll stun him temporarily, and then you can kill the second one. And then once you kill the second one, he'll become attackable. While all that's going on, you see this bar at the top. It'll be charging up. Now that bar is the amount of damage that the big hit later will do. We'll get to that in a second, but essentially you want to keep that as low as possible. So I like to just do basics. Don't use any adrenaline, but just whittle that down. So you can see he called out the stick on the northern side for me. So I surge over there, and what I like to do for the first rune is I like to Greater Conk, Wild Magic, Tsunami, and then finish it off. And you can kind of see the screen isn't great for showing this right now, but he called the forked rune that I was already on, which is nice. But not necessarily make or break a kill. But that is why you lower one, because he might call the one that you are lowering. So you kill the first rune, so now you might notice that the top bar has stopped charging, but it only stops charging for a couple seconds. So now I'm on the second rune, and so what I like to do on the second rune, depending on the health, this one's already half health because it was the one I was on, but I like to Fractured Staff, and then if it's a full health rune, I will actually Tendrils this rune because I want to get it down as fast as possible, and I want to regenerate my adrenaline from Fractured Staff specking. because it was already half, I fractured staff spec and then did a couple basics. So now, on your way to Zammy, I like to devotion. And I'll go over the reason why pretty quickly. So, at this point, Zammy is attackable, so you can kill him. He's going to do one melee hit that's just a regular melee hit. He's going to do one big hit, which no defensives work on. And then he's going to do 4 smaller hits, which defensives do work on. But they're typeless, so you can't devotion them or anything. So I see a lot of people wasting defensives on the big hit that don't work. Like, for example, Disruption Shield. Disruption Shield doesn't do anything. Debilitate doesn't do anything. Reflect doesn't do anything. None of them. Like, it's gonna hit whatever that number was whatever number was in that bar when you finish killing the runes. So for me, I think it's somewhere around 1200 right now. So what do we do with that knowledge? So knowing that nothing can reduce that big hit, the only real answer is a vitality pot, which will double your current health. So the general strategy is after you kill the rune, you devotion on your way up there. And then your next 3 abilities should be these 3 abilities in some order. Oh, and I forgot to mention, when you fracture staff spec, swap to Blood Barrage, by the way. That's pretty standard with fractured staff specking those, so not really a big surprise. So anyway, your next 3 abilities should be some order of Omni Power, Storm Shards, Shatter, and Wild Magic. And so I think in this kill, I do Omni Power, Shatter, and then Wild Magic. So you should have just enough time to do those 3 abilities. Well, actually, really, you have time after you kill the runes to do 3 abilities, but one of them is going to be devotion, most likely, unless you devotion before the rune dies. So, with that in mind, you're going to cast devotion, you're going to use 2 of those 3 abilities, then you're going to vitality pot and do the 3rd ability. So, if I were to watch this slowly, you'd see me Omni Power, Shatter, Vitality Pot, Wild Magic. Now that the big hit's out of the way, you can use defensives on the 4 smaller hits that are coming. Now, they're smaller typeless hits, which means you can also soul split during this. You could actually have soul split during any time after the melee hit. You could have soul split. I kind of tend to not turn it on until after the big hit, because you should be full health until after the big hit anyway. But now you have 4 hits that you can mitigate with whatever you like. So I like to debilitate. I like to, depending on, how much the big hit did. And also, I should note at this point, so the big hit's going to do however much damage was in the bar when you finish killing the runes. The next 4 hits, from what I can tell, do anywhere from a fourth of that number to half of that number. But again, it can be mitigated by damage. So debilitate should cut it pretty big. You can disruption shield one of them. And then I like to just spam food and do damage. So depending on if you tendrilled a rune, if you didn't tendril a rune, I like to tendril Zammy. If not, asphyxiate, armadillo battle staff spec. Those are all priority abilities. Once you've used all those, if you're low on adrenaline, then basics that are immediately damaging, so not bleeds. And you just do as much damage as possible while eating up, and between debilitate, spamming food, and disruption shield if you have it, you should get through while DPSing decently the 4 tiny hits. At this point, you're probably going to be pretty low health, and you're going to see Zamrock scream, and he's going to spawn another demon. And so what you do now is you put on your shield and you res the melee hit without praying melee, because that'll take you right to full health. And then you'll lose a little bit off of full health because he does the twin shot thing. So he has a tiny attack that's a little bit of his big attack, but it shouldn't do too much. Now you're going to have a big hit coming at you that you actually can reduce with defensives. And so now, if you didn't disruption shield, you can disruption shield, which should half it. If not, you can just reflect it. That'll take a big chunk of your health, but it shouldn't kill you if you reflect it. So then, depending on his health, you can do several things. If he's got 50k or less, you can ignore stacking shards. If not, If he has more than that, I would recommend at least stacking like 5 or 6 shards, the bare minimum. But anyway, so now the phase is going to repeat. So he's going to call 2 more runes. But this time you don't really have to care about the bark because we're going to aim to kill him before he does the big hit, which basically means the 3 abilities between him being attackable and him doing the big hit. Which actually kind of is closer to 4 in this scenario, because if the 4th ability kills him while the thing is about to hit you, it won't hit you. So anyway, he's going to spawn a demon that's going to fuck you up. Make sure you pray melee. Make sure you kill the demon. And in this case, he has 60k health, so I throw a shard on now. Then I kill the demon. Then I keep note it was stick and then B. So I just go ahead and kill the stick. And then fasting forward, now I'm just sitting here, soul splitting a bit to heal up, stacking storm shards. And once I get to a comfortable level of storm shards, then I begin, where is it? Well, first I lower the B to about 10k life points. If it's a further away one, you'll want to lower it to about 4 or 5k, and then you want to hit it with a bleed and then come back up and let the bleed finish. But not till you do this prep part. So here's what the prep part looks like. It's pretty standard. I think I started pretty shortly. I think I've skipped past it. But, Natural Instinct, build the full adrenaline. Sunshine, build the full adrenaline. Stack your debuffs, so Vol and Smoke Cloud. Build the full adrenaline. Tsunami, build to full adrenaline. Fractured Staff Spec, build to not necessarily full adrenaline, but I like to do one more basic. Devotion, attack the rune. And then, same as before, Omni Power, Shatter, Wild Magic. Those should be your 3 abilities. And I've managed to do a second cycle and do 100k damage on the second cycle before. And I think that was actually with the back rune. So that's stacking storm shards to full. Probably some lucky fractured staff crits, Omni Power. But, this is at 100% of rage. If you're 2 cycling, he definitely shouldn't be that high, because I think he only starts at like 120k or something at 100%. Maybe only 100k actually. But as you're pushing, he gets more and more health, so it gets closer to that. But I'd say anything 100k or less is doable. So as long as you can do enough damage on the first cycle to get him that low for the second cycle, you're good. The key really is surviving the hits and doing damage, and so the key to that is not wasting your defensives on the big hit, because the big hit defensives don't work on, and then just debilitating and spamming the shit out of food during the rest of the bit, and disruption shielding if you have it, but also taking care to kind of any channeled ability to at least channel it for enough ticks to get 2 hits before you eat food, so it's not just like literally spamming food nonstop. Again, this is without Crypt Bloom. It's a lot easier with Crypt Bloom because you get a massive freaking shield. But I figured this would be more applicable so people can not necessarily need 6 billion gear to do this boss. Although, without a Fractured Staff, I think it gets significantly harder, so I guess you still need at least like 4 billion gear. But anyway, I hope that helps. I'm not sure how much I'm going to keep climbing for, but I'm going to see how high I can get without Crypt Bloom. And then maybe eventually I will start using it, but I don't know. Crypt Bloom just feels so cheap to me. But anyway, good luck on your kills. Hopefully that helped. Bye-bye.